the complete final destruction of the world. The apocalypse that's coming, it's the end of the stock market crash, not just a simple depression style. We're talking about the single most important aspect of the sting operation is that. Good morning, everybody. This is Dream Life Podcast. Apocalypse Now. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about the apocalypse that we're going to see come upon the earth in the next 8 weeks. And I want to begin delving into some of the details of what the apocalypse is going to look like. Please like the videos, share the videos, and help red pill the world. Apocalypse. We're going to look over here at the dictionary definition of apocalypse. The first definition, it says, the complete final destruction of the world as described in the biblical book of Revelation. The bells ringing is supposed to usher in the apocalypse. Number two, an event involving destruction or damage on an awesome or catastrophic scale. Quote, a stock market apocalypse, unquote. What I want to do is help all my listeners kind of envision some of the things that we should be seeing when this apocalypse happens. Funny enough, in here, it mentions a stock market apocalypse. So the market crash, and this is the stock market crash that's coming. It's not going to be like a 1929 crash. This is going to be an apocalypse or an apocalyptic crash, meaning it's going to get wiped out, and there's going to be people completely freaking out about the fact that their stocks get literally obliterated. And we touched on that on some of the earlier videos, but there's a difference between depression style market collapse like we saw in 1929, an apocalyptic collapse that we're going to see sometime in the next 8 weeks. And so the thing that we believe is going to trigger the apocalyptic stock market crash in the United States is they're going to be dumping cash dollars back into our economy, just like how Reagan was able to bankrupt the USSR back when he was president. You have to use currency, and there's such thing as currency wars where they manipulate the value of currency, okay, so that somebody can gain an upper or lower hand for trade. So if you're Japan, you may want to drop the value of the yen so that other countries can afford to buy more of your product because the value of the yen is low. China does it with the yuan all the time. They try to keep it artificially low so that, it's cheap to buy, their garbage products, from China. So stepping back for a minute into this idea about the complete final destruction of the world, I'm not talking about the complete final destruction of the world where it wipes out life on Earth. The apocalypse that's coming, it's the end of life on Earth, the way that the satanic cabal, the Illuminati, the New World Order was controlling things. The apocalypse is coming upon them. Because of the fact that we are citizens of the earth, we have to go through this apocalypse upon the deep state. We have to go through that as well, okay, because it's a spiritual battle and it's a natural battle. And so, because of the fact that they overlap, there's going to be bloodshed. It's going to get ugly, and it's going to get super ugly. The good thing is that because of what the sting operations that the militaries have been doing for the past 8 years, they have been able to take out the most dangerous animals that existed within the New World Order and the deep state. All the wannabe Illuminati minions that worked for these very dangerous animals, they're facing some serious crimes. They're facing some serious military tribunals for crimes against humanity. Quite frankly, they do not want to have to face the music. So they're in a position where they can either face military tribunal for crimes against humanity and go to the firing range or the gallows and the noose and get hung, or they can go scorched earth and try to do as much damage as they possibly can as their world comes to a final destruction of the world as they knew it and as they were running it, enslaving humanity. So the stock market crash, not just a simple depression style. We're talking about an apocalyptic crash of the stock market where it's basically completely decimated. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to zero. But having said that, do not be dismayed. If you're somebody who has invested in the stock market, I believe after the dust starts to settle next March, I believe that those values will be reconstituted at that point in time. But it's going to get scary and it's going to get ugly for you from now until March. The other item that's going to happen within us destroying their world as they know it is we're all going to have to go through a near-death experience, and everybody's going to have to make the decision, or they're going to have to make a decision as it corresponds with our relationship between ourselves and God. There is going to be a come to Jesus meeting here in the next 8 weeks that every single solitary person is going to have to make a decision. And the Bible verse that rings in my ears when I know what's coming is the fact that the Bible says that every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. There's going to be that come to Jesus meeting literally in the flash of a pan. It's going to be here. And every one of us is going to have to take new stock in our relationship with God. And do we want to serve Jesus? Do we want to serve God Almighty? Or you can make the stupid decision to serve the devil and go down with Satanists, the Luciferians, the Baal worshipers, whatever you want to call them. You can decide to go that route. Not wise, obviously. But whether you like it or not, in the next 8 weeks, there's going to be a come to Jesus meeting. As such, you're going to have a decision to make. We're going to be going through a near-death event that's going to affect everybody on the entire planet. The coming apocalypse against the deep state, the Satanists, the Luciferians, this is going to change the world forever. Our world is not going to look the same in any way, shape, or form as we go into the golden age. We are entering into the golden age. It's possible that it could be the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Those could be corresponding happenings. I don't know. I could see that being one of the descriptions. And so as we talk about the specifics that we're going to be looking at, one of the other components is that the U.S. military is going to have to execute the arrest of at least 500,000 to 1 million people. And again, this touches base on one of my previous broadcasts where I told you that the United States Department of Justice has 495,104 sealed indictments. On average, they typically have somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 at any given point in time. And if you think about the fact that there's 495,000 plus, and I'm sure that number's grown since the last update that I received. If there's 2 people in each indictment, there could be 2 people. There could be up to 99 people in one indictment. You have to think to yourself is that, okay, the military, as part of this coup, and we'll get into what the definition of a coup is here in just a little bit. But part of the apocalypse of their world coming to an end is that they get detained by law enforcement or military law enforcement. There's 2 different enforcements of law. If we're under standard common law and constitutional law, that's one justice system. The justice system that I'm talking about is military law, where you've got significant serious crimes against humanity, where people go to see military tribunals and the JAG officers. They're not going to see Judge Judy. Okay, there's no appeals, there's no delays, there's no nothing. You go into court, you get an hour to 3 hours, they prove their case, and they process you, and they ship your ass off to where it belongs to be. Okay, none of this common law where, people drag stuff out, death sentences or, crimes, or whatever. You can't drag this stuff out. They process you, and they process you very super efficiently. This is not child's play. This is no game. It's serious stuff. They take it seriously, and they deal with it, and they handle it. So I'm gonna step back for a minute and talk about the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Okay. We have up here, we just did a simple Google search. The millennium is the 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ described in Revelation 20. Now, I am not saying that this is the 1,000-year reign of Christ, but I believe that it very well could be, because when I hear that we're entering into the golden age as President Trump has outlined, I believe that they could be one and the same. The Old Testament prophets also announced and longed for this messianic kingdom of peace on the earth. Why is this called the millennium? Since in Latin, mille means 1,000 and millennium lasts 1,000 years. So I can see a correspondence between the golden age and this being the 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ here on the earth. There's a second reason that I believe that we could be entering into the millennium reign of Christ, because of the fact that the Luciferians, the Satanists, they have been the ones who have been running the earth and controlling humanity for a long time. I don't know exactly when it started, but nevertheless, they've enslaved humanity, and we're entering into the golden age. I believe that it could tie into millennium reign of Jesus Christ. But needless to say, there's still going to be a come to Jesus meeting where you're going to have to look in the mirror. You're going to have to decide who you are, what you believe, and who you're going to worship and follow. That has been voluntary, free will up until this point in time. But we're coming up to a day where the rubber's going to meet the road, and you got to make a decision. You got to go straight or you got to go left. Take your pick. But there's only going to be two choices. The next part of this is going to be, as part of this apocalypse, is you're going to be seeing these people who get arrested going through their military tribunals, being brought to justice, and you're going to see public executions of these Satanists, of these people who have committed crimes against humanity. That's a huge facet of this apocalyptic event. Now, I just want to refresh everybody's memory a little bit about the fact that, about the multiple things that the sting operations have been doing. The single most important and significant thing that the military sting operation has been doing, again, the military sting operation of the United States of America with the 36 largest militaries of other countries across the world, this military sting operation has been going on to close to 8 years now. The single most important aspect of the sting operation is that they are taking down and they are destroying a worldwide child sex trafficking ring where, sadly to say, as part of this child sex trafficking ring, as horrific as the child abuse has been sexually, these poor children have been tortured, murdered for satanic ritual. It's horrific what these children have gone through. I can't even imagine how a human being functions when on a daily basis they have to suffer under this insufferable amount of torture, pain, enslavement. So again, this is one facet. Human sex trafficking of men and women who are adults, that's a component of it. Overthrow of government with the stealing of elections, that's a component of this. Another component of this apocalypse is going to be dealing with the question of the aliens. Now, there's a gentleman by the name of Philip Schneider. He worked at Area 51. He was a geologist for the United States government. I'm going to pull up one of his videos here in a minute. It's a very old video. It's kind of grainy, but what's nice is his voice is crystal clear, and you can hear very clearly what he's saying. And I'm going to bring that into the mix here just so that you can understand from his words, because I can't do justification to his words. And so I'm just going to pull that up so that you can begin to understand the alien component of what's coming. This is looking pretty good.
As before, I'm Phil Schneider. I'm an ex-government worker who worked 17 years in the Black Projects, otherwise known as the Skunk Works. I worked predominantly helping to design and build extremely deep underground military bases. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm going to stop there just to make sure that everybody picked up on what he had said. He said he was working on what they call white projects for the military, and he was working under Skunk Works. If you'd seen from some of my previous videos, I mentioned the fact that the CEO of Skunk Works, which is a part of Lockheed Martin is a defense contractor for the United States military and government. He made a statement, I think he was maybe addressing one of the California schools, maybe Berkeley. At a graduation ceremony, the CEO of Skunk Works, of portion of Lockheed Martin, said, we have the technology to go to the stars. But he said it would take an act of Congress in order for the American people to hear any of that. Okay. So for credibility purposes, this man, I listen to what he says. I put on the critical thinking cap. I look for his motivation. Why is he doing these things? And he's exceedingly compelling on what he says, how he says it, and with the authority and the knowledge and the experience that he says it with. This is why I believe him. So I'm going to let him continue on here a little bit.
Give you a short overview of my background. I'm a structural engineer, both aerospace as well as military applications. Graduate of University of Missouri as well as University of Manchester, England. Primarily working in that university. That's about it for me. I worked in Vietnam, got torn to pieces, shot, whatever. Took 5 years to recuperate, came back, patched me up, so to speak. Went to work for Morrison Knudsen, and from work.
Okay, he said he was in the Vietnam War, and when he came back, he worked for, he said, Morrison Knudsen, and I'm familiar with that company. That's the only reason I was able to pick up who it was. Morrison Knudsen is one of those companies that has been involved in super big and super secret projects along with Lockheed Martin and Skunk Works. So this man has got some very amazing experience. I'll continue.
Morrison Knudsen, I worked also with EG&G, Bechtel, Aerospatiale of France. I also worked with Fiat for a while. Cars by Fiat.
So some of these other multinational corporations that he's talking about. So just because of the fact of his resume, this is a serious dude. He's been there, he's done that, and he has experience, and I believe he's sharing the truth.
I did a lot of work overseas, but predominantly my field was underground mountain basing, also submarine basing. I wrote several treatises on analyzing rock formations by grain structure, and this grain structure would yield a certain pattern, and that certain pattern could be used to analyze and chemically analyze and make special explosives that could be used to blast out large caverns underground, and even when there were caverns, you could still use shape charges to blast inert rock, although a lot of it was done by laser tunneling and drilling. I have a copy of a book here. I can't sell it. It's my only copy. But this fellow could corroborate with me. His name is Richard Sauter, PhD. He can corroborate with me in regards to everything I'm talking about.
Who is it by?
Richard Sauter, PhD.
Here's another man that
Okay, we need
couldn't
to
find the room. You need to give him your ticket.
I will.
And all that.
I guess I'll let you know that kind of the background of my father. My father was a German U-boat captain, responsible for the sinking of 141 Allied boats. And he got captured by the French, then turned over to Third Army, U.S., and then Third Army turned him over to panic the public. And their second main reason is that they don't want the public to know the alien agenda might have been used to in-house alien beings. Our government chooses not to let this out to the public for two reasons. Their first main reason is that they don't want to panic the public. And their second main reason is that they don't want the public to know the alien agenda. My first part of my talk will be talking predominantly about the alien agenda and what it means for us on planet Earth. And it's going to get pretty graphic. The alien agenda basically is thusly. Aliens of 11 distinct races have been arriving here on Earth in mass since 1946, predominantly, and maybe earlier. Actually, probably the Bikini Island was one humongous underwater UFO base, or basically flying disc base, and that was known in the early 1940. I think it was March of 1940 it was known that there was a number of this activity.
Okay, so I'm going to just stop it there just so everybody understands is that our government, for all the super secrets that they're covering or keeping concealed, which there is boatloads of stuff that they're keeping the knowledge of from the people. I find this man to be 100% credible. And when he says that they first engaged with aliens, people from another realm, this goes back to as early as 1946, as he's saying here.
At that time. The Japanese, before we got into war with them, they had a number of problems with flying balls of light, as they called them, or divine second wind, as they also called them. They thought they were godlike. However, the gods don't come down and murder the populace, and so their idea of such ended rather abruptly. They became rather frightened after they declared war with us, hoping that if they lost the war, and this is strictly skeptical at this point in time because I've heard this from only 3 different sources within the U.S. Navy, that if we captured enough territory, maybe we could lick them, and that would solve their problem. But although that's pretty skeptical, can't prove that one way or not.
Okay, so to add to his credibility, okay, he tells us when he can prove stuff or when he can't, okay, and he's making statements, but he says, I can't prove that. But he's aware of the truth, but he just doesn't have any factual basis to be able to prove it. And again, this builds his credibility.
The alien agenda basically is to take over planet Earth by another race of beings, or races of beings. The U.S. government has known about this alien agenda at least since early Hitlerian times, probably as early as 1933. The reason for that is the Third Army, under Patton and others, just afterwards had allured that there was some other agenda other than World War II that was an immediate threat to the people of this planet. In fact, General Douglas MacArthur was one time quoted in saying the very next war, and this is toward the close of World War II in 1945, he actually was quoted in saying, the next war we have will be not from people of Earth, but it will be from people. The World War I'm talking about, or worse, will be from races from the stars. And of course, this spawned a lot of speculative science fiction writing and that kind of thing like that. It was all
is tying into what I'm talking about, this apocalypse. Only God understands the relationship between the realms. If a race exists within the earthly realm or other realms or other places, God's the only one who understands that. But the apocalypse and the current war that is coming to a head in the next 8 weeks, okay, I believe is tied in some way to the battle that Philip Schneider is talking about here. We'll continue.
From then on, he was kind of looked at as a doddering old fool. He was a very visionary man, saying the least. If anything, he knew about the alien agenda in World War I times. Let me go further back in history. The first UFOs seen and occupants seen in caves and in and around Truth and Consequences, New Mexico, were spotted by U.S. Army cavalry in 1909. So this is a little earlier than most people have thought. possibly U.S. cavalry had come across they were chasing some bandits, and they chased them in this area, and there was these caves, and they were rather highly infested with aliens, and what they called a silver wing. You didn't know what like. All that was around were very primitive aircraft, and of course there was balloons, and that was about it. 1909 was pretty.
Just to stop to comment there is that, can you imagine being in a cavalry in 1909 and you're riding on horseback and all of a sudden you see this silver flying disc and you have no idea what this thing is, and this thing is literally flying around Earth or within Earth's atmosphere at speeds that were unconscionable to them? How would they even digest that from basically looking in very, very low technology to technology that they couldn't even fathom? We'll continue now.
Far back in time. Anyway, the alien agenda means, as far as anything goes, as far as the government is concerned, it is the worst scenario they could ever face, because it involves not only having to tell the public major lies and innuendo all the time, and keeping the public out of their face. Slowly it's breaking down, and I'm helping do that because I remember my forefather of this country, George Washington, one time saying, "An uninformed populace is a populace devoted to slavery." And so one must consider that if we become uninformed and we ourselves have to take up battle against this kind of a scourge, if we're uninformed, then we're defeated already. So I'm not here to panic anybody or start a panic, but I feel that by lying to the American public, this is not the American way.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there for this live and this podcast. But the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to introduce you to Philip Schneider, who, in my estimation, is the single greatest expert and authority on the existence of other beings within our realm. And again, I do not believe that the earth is a planet. I believe that we live in a realm, and I believe that there are other realms. And I believe that somehow there are portals or whatever that people can travel from one realm to the other realm. Now, obviously, if alien beings had this extraordinary technology that if they wanted to come into the earth realm and decimate its population vis-a-vis their technology, which is light years beyond, our cavalry ride around horses in New Mexico. It gets back to what I was saying earlier, is that our understanding is that there's benevolent alien beings and there's malevolent. And there's always a battle going on between good and evil. But Philip Schneider, this man, there's other videos and good videos on Philip Schneider on YouTube. I encourage you to go and watch them and listen to what this man says. This man is a patriot. He believes in our Constitution. He believes in what our founding fathers meant this country to be. And I had us listen to this video to get to the point where he talked about the fact that George Washington said, in uninformed citizenry, we deserve to be slaves if we are unwilling to educate ourselves and get ourselves informed to the greatest extent possible by doing the work of educating ourselves and getting the information that we can. So I believe that there are other races, that come from another dimension, another realm, and I believe that they can travel from realm to realm. Exactly how, I don't know, because I haven't been educated on exactly how it's done. However, when you have people like the CEO of Skunkworks, the division of Lockheed Martin, say that we have the technology, humans, the U.S. military, they have the technology to go to the stars, but the bastards in Congress will not allow us to have that information. So just by virtue of the fact that they will hide the truth from us peons, or us peasants, tells you that we don't have the ability to be informed enough to even know what the hell the government's even doing. Thanks be to God that we have God-fearing Christian men within our military who are going to make sure that they do everything within their power in their ranks and in the different things that the military does to stave off us falling into permanent slavery to the New World Order. And that's what's going on. So I'm going to leave it at that right now, folks. Search out and listen to a bunch of stuff of Philip Schneider. You will not be disappointed, and you will only be educated. My friends, that this man, he's been there, he's done it. And I perceive him as a no bullshit kind of guy. If he knows, he knows. If he doesn't know, he tells you. But he's got a lot of information that most 99.9999999% of the people in the United States don't have a clue of. So thanks for joining us. Please share this with your friends. Thank you. So folks, if you like my channel and you like the golden nuggets that we're delivering, please hit like and also subscribe. And also you can comment anything that you want to say or questions that you have down in the comment section, and we'll reply to that. Thank you.